Hi friends, now in this session we'll discuss what to expect on CFA Level 2's exam day. Now this is very important session for you if you are going to appear for the CFA Level 2 in 1 or 2 days, assuming like you're watching this video today only and the exam is starting from 27th. So make sure you understand the points and remember these points, because these points which we will discuss in the video are going to help you in the examination. So my main agenda of this video is to give you the guidance so that you panic less in the examination. So we will try to address only those points where the students panic, students are confused and so on, right? So let's first start with the general exam structure. The exam structure you all understand. This is the 22 case study exam where you will get the 11 and 11 case studies. And remember, in the CFA level 1, you have session wise subject defined. So you will have the 5 subject for the session 1, 5 subject for the session 2. This is a defined structure of the level 1. In level 2, this is not a defined structure. Any subject can come in any session. Okay. Here you will have one case study trailing, assuming like the institute asked 2 trailing case studies. So I'm simply saying like the one trailing case studies in each session, and 10 will be evaluated. 10 case studies will be evaluated. Every case study will have 4 questions, so you get the total 88 questions in the examination. This means the evaluation will be on the 80. Okay, so you will get evaluated only on the 80 questions. If you consider this particular part, then you have to, generally people say like the MPS is 65 and around. Okay, so you can you have to score more than 60 and you are good to go, 60 65, and you are good to go for the like passing, right? Now what you need to understand about this exam structure is when you get questions in the examination, so we have subject wise range defined, right? So 10 to 15% or 5 to 10%. Like for the corporate issuer and the economics, we have 5 to 10% range. Then for the FSA, ethics, and so on, we have 10 to 15% range. This simply means when we say 10%, it is 2 case studies or 3 case studies. Here, 1 case study or 2 case studies. Now, for 7 subjects, you will get the maximum case studies. Maximum as in, so if the subject falls in the category of 10 to 15%, then you will get the 3 case studies. If the subject falls in 5 to 10%, then you will get the 2 case studies. This is going to happen for 7 case studies, 7 subjects. And in 3 subjects, you will get the minimum weightage. That means like you will get 2 case studies for 10 to 15% and 1 case study for 5 to 10%. This may happen only for the 3 subjects. So this is what you need to understand. 7 subjects will get tested on the maximum side, 3 subjects on the minimum side. This is based on the counting. I literally counted like, okay, from the subject like 10 subjects, this type of weightage, and allocated the minimum weight first, and then we have some case studies left. Then I allocated the remaining case studies, and based on that. But for you, right now the explanations are not important. Don't try to redo the calculations. I did it for you. Just remember, 7 will be tested on the maximum side, 3 will be tested on the minimum side. Why this is important? If you are weak in one of the subjects, then there is a decent chance that you will get tested on the lower side. Okay, so like maybe 1 or 2 case studies from that subject. And if you see the previous results shared by the students in the social media, then you will observe like maximum students are able to score near to 50%. The problem is not scoring 50%. The students face the problem in scoring more than 70%. And this is the defining factor of the passing and failing. So when you are able to score around 50%, the maximum students are able to score around 50%, we can deduce from this like, okay, so each case study should have at least 2 questions which are easy to manage. 2 questions may be difficult, like this. So even if you are not very confident about a particular subject, then still you have the chance of scoring 50% in that subject. Just understand this particular part. Just remember this. Okay, give me a second. Now, length of exam questions. So if you see the LES questions are really lengthy. Okay, it is practically impossible to solve LES questions in 2.5 minutes, and we know in this exam you are going to get the 2.5 minute per question, and we know most of the students tell, okay, exam is manageable time wise, right? So you must have seen these feedbacks. This means the question should be manageable lengthwise in 2.5 minutes and also the calculation wise in 2.5 minutes. Okay, so the 2.5 minute rule is applicable for the length of the question, the reading time of the question, and also the solving time of the question. Based on this, we can understand or assume the question is going to be, or question should not be as lengthy as LES question, or the calculation requirement should not be as lengthy as the LES questions. If you see the question which requires a lot of calculation, then my recommendation is straight away skip it and move to the next subject, the next question. Also, one more thing, a lot of students are really worried about is the case study type of exam setting, right? So where you have the full case study and based on that, you have 4 questions. But we all saw in the LES and in the mock test, it is not a full case study based question. It is very inappropriate to say it is a case study type of question. So here you have the exhibit 1, exhibit 1, 2, 3 and 4. You have 4 exhibits and then you have the 4 question. Question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. Now each question is related, generally speaking, in the LES and the mock test, each question is related to one exhibit only. So if instead of asking questions in this particular structure, if I ask you question in this particular structure like exhibit 1 and then question 1, then exhibit 2, and then question 2, and then exhibit 3 and then question 3, this is the same situation, right? So having 4 exhibits, one after another in one full like the case study, and then 4 questions related to that versus the one case study or simply the one exhibit and the one question, one exhibit, one question, one exhibit, one question. It is one and the same thing. The only difference is how it is structured. So you have to understand, don't bother about like there are like a full case study and 4 questions. Think it like, okay, one case study, one question like this. One short case study, one short question. Simple? Okay. And based on this, you can decide your strategy, preparation strategy, the exam strategy, question solving strategy. Okay. Then we have, okay, so easy or difficult question first. What should be the strategy? Should you solve the easy question first or should you solve the difficult question first? Now here you will, the panel, you must have seen this in the level 1 also, the similar panel you will get, but it is case study wise, and the case study will open in the left. Here you will have the case study and here you will have the questions. So it is aligned like this. And here you will have the numbering. So case study number 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 questions. Then case study 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Then case study 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 questions like this. This is how it is structured. Now see this. When you have structure like this, remember, you have to read the case study and then answer the question. Now, if you read the case study and then you decide, okay, I will solve this particular case study later, I don't think this is very good idea. If you read the case study, finish it then and there only. Because remember, you read it, then you skip it. Then again, if you want to come back to that case study, then you have to again reread it. You will forget whatever you read, the information in that case study. So you are simply consuming double time there, right? So my suggestion is, once you read it, either you know it, you don't know it. This is as simple as that, right? If you know it, solve it and move on. If you don't know it, tick it and move on. If you are confused, tick it, flag it and move on. But make sure you tick it and move on instead of just skipping it and simply flagging it and okay, I will see it later or like that. It is completely possible that you won't have enough time to revisit that case study. That's why my recommendation is, whatever you think is the best possible option, tick it and then move on. If you have time left, then you can revisit that particular case study, right? And having enough time to revisit the case study is itself luxury. Okay, a lot of students are able to do it. There are a lot of students like me. I generally find time management in the exam very difficult. So I will be solving my exam till like the last question. So that's the problem. If you are like me, then the best strategy is to go with the solve it, tick it, finish it and move on. Then if you think or you know, let's say my derivatives is not good, but 9 subjects are good. Okay, this is what you are thinking. So if you see a derivative case study, then the recommendation is outrightly skip it. Don't read that case study, because in front of case study, the subject will be mentioned. Okay, this is the derivatives case study, equity case study, portfolio management, and so on. So if you see the derivative case study and you are not comfortable with it, maybe you are not comfortable with the portfolio and so on, then don't bother about it. Simply move to the next case study, finish other case studies, and in the end, solve the case study where you are finding problem or where you think you are not comfortable. This is assuming you are not good with that particular subject. And this is, I have seen universally. Most of the students are troubled by at least one or two subjects. No student is comfortable, or most of the students are not comfortable in all 10 subjects. Okay. So if this is like, if you are comfortable in all 10 subjects, then this suggestion is not for you. If you are not comfortable in one or two subjects, then you can follow this particular structure. When you are approaching the known area, make sure you don't waste a lot of time in that area. It will cost you heavily. Okay. Also make sure you do all the calculations carefully, because with this type of hectic exam, you may make some errors in the calculation, and the institutes are generally smart enough, like any international institute, even the Indian institutes, they will give you options in such a way that even if you do the wrong calculation, there are high chances that that wrong calculations answer will also match with the option. This will create a problem for you, right? So make sure you are doing the calculations correctly. Okay. So suggestion: easy questions first, difficult questions later, if you have the problem in the that particular subject itself. But if you are comfortable with that particular subject, and then you find a particular case study difficult, you are unable to solve it. Let's say you are very good with the FSA, but still you are finding FSA case study very difficult. Then my recommendation is like tick it there and move on. Fine. Okay. I hope you understood it. The next is, as per institute, they don't put any tricks in the question. No tricks in the questions. Okay. So institute says the questions are already difficult, exam is already difficult, so we don't want to kill the students' performance with the tricks in the questions. So don't expect some tricks. If you find question easy, this is what I've seen with my students. Okay. So if you find questions easy and you are going with that with the assumption that most of the students said like the exam is really difficult, and now you are finding questions easy, then somehow you waste your time in trying to identify, is there any trick which I am missing? Remember this, generally there are no tricks as per institute. Okay, not as per like me. As per institute, there are no tricks as such in the examination or in the question. You are finding that particular question easy because maybe the question is easy and you are very well prepared. And remember, if the MPS is 70%, okay, the 70% score is required to pass the exam. I think it is 65%, but let's take the conservative approach and assume it is 70%. If the MPS is 70% and we know approximately 40 to 50% students pass in the examination, based on this, we can understand it is practically possible to score 70% in the examination for 50% of the student or 40% of the student. This means there are enough easy questions in the examination. So if you see the easy question, don't worry, the question is easy. The students who report the exam is very difficult, they are maybe not very well prepared for the exam like this. If you are finding questions easy, you are in the right direction, your preparation is really good, and that's why you are finding it easy. Don't try to find out some hidden tricks in that particular question. Okay, don't lose your confidence. Okay, I'm finding exam very easy, maybe I'm missing something. Fine. So no tricks in the examination. Now, process versus formula based questions. Now, what is this? Process based question means the question like the swaps, the currency swap, equity based swaps, and we have the fixed to floating swap, the interest rate swap, and so on. So in swap, you don't have to remember the formula as such. Obviously, we have the SFR formula, but apart from that, it is a process based question. And then we have the formula based question like the equity, the major equity section, the PVGO, the price calculation, the P0 calculation, intrinsic value calculation. Then you have the economic value added, EVA calculation, and so on. So all these are the formula based question. It is not a process based questions. Lot of students focus a lot on the formula because they are unable to recall the formula just like that when they are sitting at home and somehow they try to recall the formula, they are unable to do it. But remember one thing, take it from me, you will be able to remember the formula in the examination because you know the basic structure of the formula, you don't know this, like you are unable to recall very specifics of the formula. In exam, you are provided with this information, A, B, and C. There are values in it. And you know this particular formula requires A minus B, or simply, there is a formula which is simply like let's take the Sharpe's ratio formula. Okay, so the return of the portfolio minus the RF divided by the sigma, standard deviation, right? Standard deviation of the portfolio. So this is what you do in the in that particular formula. If you are unable to recall that formula, normally you will be able to recall that formula in the examination because information is provided to you. Once you have the information, this is how our brain works. Once you have the clues, you will be able to recall the formula. Formula is not a big deal. I have never seen a student take any exam, FRM or CFA. I have never seen a student who said, I failed in the exam because I was unable to recall the formulas. No one said it. But almost everyone said they are unable to remember the formula before exam. Before exam, almost everyone is saying they are unable to remember the formula in the exam, remember the formulas. But in the exam, they were able to remember it, right? They were able to apply those formulas and no one complained about the formula. This means this is just a feeling like you are unable to recall, but automatically it will happen in the examination. Again, if you find formulas difficult, some formulas are always there where it is difficult to remember. So my recommendation is before your exam, like just one day before exam, or if your session is in the afternoon, just in the morning, just check all those formulas, the difficult formulas, and that's it. Okay, go ahead, don't bother about it. If you remember, fine. If you don't remember, fine. One or two questions are not going to cost your exam if you are performing really good in the remaining exam, right? This is a very simple principle. But if you bother too much about the formula, you may end up ruining your whole exam. Fine. Now, the process oriented questions. Most of the students ignore the process oriented questions under the pressure of the formula oriented questions. They focus too much on the formula, ignore the process oriented questions. Process oriented questions like right now I'm able to recall or remember only the swaps part, which is very process oriented. Then some portion is there in the corporate issuer, some portion is there in the economics first chapter where we have to calculate the cross currency swaps and the cross currency rates, right? So cross rate between the three different currencies and all. Then we have the arbitrage, triangular arbitrage also. So all those things are the process oriented things. So make sure you also check all the process oriented questions so that you are able to remember the process in the exam. Most of the students will end up making blunder in process area because ultimately it is process. Even if you are provided with all the information, you should be able to recall the step-by-step process. Otherwise, you won't be able to solve it. And in process, there is no formula to get the flashback of the formula and solve it. Fine. So make sure you revise the processes also. And also, you should make sure you remember all the key points. Key points. Make sure you go through the key points. Don't try to read the whole book. You will remember majority content in the examination. Problems happen in the key points only. Key points like in the portfolio management, we have economics based chapter. In economics, we have the economics based chapter, right? Half of the first chapter is pure economics where you have a lot to remember. Then in the FSA, we have the differences between the IFRS and the US GAAP. These are key points type of questions. The key points where you have to specifically remember those points. There is no logic to it. Why IFRS is doing X and US GAAP is doing Y, there is no logic to it. Independently, there is logic, okay? But just like why IFRS is following method X and not Y and US GAAP is following method Y and not X, there is no logic why they are following like this. So you won't be able to remember outrightly. So focus on these points before exam instead of the whole area. Whole area is generally remembered by every student. So 90%, 80% section you will be able to remember if you have prepared properly. Problem will happen in 20%. Institutes know, all institutes know you are going to face problem in these 20%. Though they may put some more emphasis on these type of areas like the formulas, processes, key points. So focus on the key points or the confusing points. Then if you find exam difficult, then my suggestion is don't bother about it. It is completely possible. Your exam is actually difficult. It is difficult for everyone. And you may get the benefit of scaling in the examination. Okay. So don't lose your confidence. Generally, students end up losing their confidence once they see like the one or two case studies and then they panic, then they ruin their whole exam. My recommendation is if you find it difficult, okay, fine. Doesn't matter. I have very simple rule. Okay. One question at a time. Once you solve that question and move to the next question, forget about the previous question. Next question, then next question, and then next question. This is how you should solve. Doesn't matter it is difficult, easy. Maybe first 4 or 8 questions are difficult, and after that everything is easy. But if you panic in the first 8 questions, because of the first 8 questions, then you will end up like completely dumping your exam. So again, my recommendation is whatever happens, don't bother about it. Difficult, easy, doesn't matter. Give your best on each question. Focus on only one question at a time. If you leave that question, leave that question. Leave as in, once you solve and move to the next question, forget about the previous question. You don't have to carry the baggage of the previous question. From baggage, now the last and most important point. Don't carry the baggage of your previous mock performances. If you performed really well in the previous mocks, let's say 90%, then also forget about it. And if you scored 50%, then also forget about it. If you scored 90%, this is again I have seen happening. The students who scored 90% in the exam, they go with some notion that they are going to score similarly in the exam. It is completely possible, they may score. But if the exam is difficult and you are going with that enthusiasm that like I'm going to score 100% or 90% in this exam, and suddenly you find like most of the questions are difficult, because in exam setting you will find a lot of questions difficult. If you find a lot of questions difficult, you are unable to answer the question with the confidence. If this happens, you will lose your whole confidence, because you are going with the notion of scoring 90% in the exam also, because you scored 90% in the mock. Whatever happened in the mock, forget about it. Exam is different, mock is different. Now, if you scored 50% in the mock, generally mocks are very difficult compared to the actual exam. This is based on the students' feedback. They give the normal feedback. Okay, this is difficult, this is easy. Generally, exam is actually difficult. The mocks are actually difficult, more difficult than the actual exam. So it is completely possible, even though you scored 50% in the mock, you may end up scoring 90% in the exam. Completely possible, and happens a lot. And also, when you scored or prepared or solved that particular mock, it was maybe 20-30 days before exam, right? Now in the last 30 days, you prepared a lot, and because of this preparation, your performance will increase, and based on this performance you may end up scoring, or you should score more than 70%, right? So this is how it works. So you have to focus on this, like whatever happened in the score doesn't matter. 100%, 50%, 30% doesn't matter. Just focus on the exam. Okay, so that's all from my side. If you have any queries relating to the exam, except for like the what are the specific questions, topic area and testing area and so on, I don't know what they are going to test. So if you have any specific queries, if you want to know more, if you are confused and all like that, you can contact me on the number which is given in the WhatsApp. Please make sure you WhatsApp only, not the direct calls. For the doubts, I take doubts on the WhatsApp only. Okay, so that's all from my side. All the best for your exam. I wish you all like you pass, obviously. So it is 50% result. I wish you all like you fall in the 50% category. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Take care.